right, welcome to the Utah Lake Authority meeting. We're so happy to have you here. Thank you for patiently waiting as we worked on some technical issues. We'll go ahead and get our meeting started. It's November 17th, 2023, and the time is 9:12. And we will start with our chair and board member reports. Is there anybody that would like to share anything? I'm going to start all the way down with Ben, and we'll just work our way past the baton to the next person. Okay.
I do have a small update for everyone. This is Hillary Hungerford. So next semester, I got a chance to study in Mongolia. So I'll be joining via Zoom next semester. I got a Fulbright fellowship to go teach and study sustainability type things. Yeah. So if you want to follow my Instagram, I'll give it to you after. But yeah, so that's my update. I'll be joining from Mongolia next semester.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
I just got a text from Representative McKell. He's at another meeting for the Uniform Law Commission and can't be here today and asked to be recused or to be excused. Thanks.
Nothing at this time, Chair.
Just Mayor Kafusi's regrets that she's not here at this point. She may be able to zoom in at some point. If so, I'll step down, but happy to be here for her.
Thank you.
Yes, I don't have anything to report. I'm Mayor Larson and new, but on this authority about 4 or 5 months ago.
Nothing to report at this time. Just thank you for everybody being here and going through this process. I look forward to some good discussion today.
So Terry Peterson, Orem City, and I have nothing to report. John Mackey, Division of Water Quality. I just had a couple of things I thought I would mention. I had an inquiry from Eric a week or so ago about some of the old fish advisories, PCB fish advisories that had been placed on the lake. And he was looking into whether those had been updated. And what we found was that a few years back, there were some additional fish tissue samples collected that came up absent in PCBs. Which is really positive news. There wasn't enough information to be able to get the fish on the lake off the list. We do have a building block that we've put in requests for some additional funding so that we can support that type of testing, including work on Utah Lake. So we're hopeful to be able to get fish off the advisory list for Utah Lake in the near future. I think the authority is aware, but we did submit a building block on behalf of the authority to the governor's office, hoping to get it in the governor's budget for $10 million for a couple of things, some access and shoreline improvement projects, as well as some water quality projects. And so we're happy to have be able to offer that support as well. If I may, just one other thing. In looking at today's budget, I noticed that we're paying some invoices on algae treatment, and I just wanted to share a recent experience that we had on another reservoir, on a small reservoir. And the reason I bring it up, it really just goes to making sure that we're implementing these treatment approaches correctly at the right time of year and in a thoughtful way. There was a treatment that was done late in the season on Manaway Reservoir during a time when the reservoir was, had a very heavy algae bloom. And it was a very successful treatment done in accordance with chemical application requirements. But when you kill off a large amount of algae, and make, in this case, very clear water, it sinks to the bottom and starts to decay. And this is sort of classic Clean Water Act stuff. A eutrophic lake, algae die off naturally, sink to the bottom, decay, deplete the oxygen, and results in fish kills. And in the end, there was a significant fish kill. It was recently stocked fish. So they were probably stressed anyway. But certainly the depression in oxygen was a contributing factor to killing off 500 fish. So it's just an awareness that we all need to have when we're pursuing these types of approaches for management of our lakes. And I just thought the board might be interested. So thank you.
Thank you.
There we go. It's on. I just wanted to thank all of the presenters and the volunteers and the various partners and educational people. The Utah Lake Symposium on October 17th was fantastic. Thank you to staff for that. I learned so much, and it's so exciting to see all of the incredible things that are coming together right now with this board and with the efforts of so many scientists and good resource management efforts. So I just wanted to thank everyone who participated in the Utah Lake Symposium a couple of weeks ago.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Was there anyone online that had anything to share from the board? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our staff and committee reports, and we'll start out with Addie, who will talk about our conservation and restoration efforts.
Okay, is this on? Sorry, the little mic situation was a little interesting figuring it out this morning. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Addie Valdez. I'm a conservation biologist. So I just wanted to give you guys a few quick updates on some of the projects we've kind of been continually working on. Not a full immersive kind of report just because we have some more important things to talk about today, but still I thought I would share some of the stuff we've been working on. So one of the big things that Carolyn just mentioned was our Utah Lake Resource Management Symposium. I was really happy with our turnout that we had, and we had a lot of great different resources reporting on their findings from this year. So that included water quality, carp removal, June sucker population reports, anything and everything on the lake, which I was really happy about. We've had some suggestions to maybe include a little bit more recreation and community involvement, which I think is a great suggestion. And if you guys have more suggestions for next year, we would love to hear them. We are definitely looking to improve it for next year even more. So we had about 15 entities in total just presenting, but we had even more than that actually at the symposium, which was very nice to be able to see that so many people are invested in Utah Lakes health. So it was great to see that turnout. And we have gotten quite a bit of positive feedback from resource managers, participants, and anyone else. So we were very happy about that since it was kind of our first time going around, but we are going to other symposiums and still learning. So we're excited for next year's as well. And then some updates on the pollinator habitat program. You guys have been hearing about this all summer and fall. So we finally were able to receive our plants on September 30th, and we were housing them at UVU, our greenhouse that we have there, which is super awesome. We thank them for their partnership and always helping us with our plants. But they went into the ground on October 4th. We had about approximately 500 wetland plugs, which was so awesome to see. You can see them all in the back of my car there. It was definitely a squeeze. So I did not think there would be that many. So I was really happy to see that. And we planted them at 2 different sites. One of the original planned sites was at the Provo Delta Restoration Project. There are some species limitations in there just because of aviation regulations. So we were able to get about 4 or 5 of the species we received planted in there. We had a decent volunteer turnout. We had a lot of people participating with UVU students, ULA staff, and we even had some Forestry, Fire, and State Land staff show up, which was super awesome to see so many people involved. And it turned out pretty great. We had the right equipment, and we were really happy to get them in the ground finally. And then we also planted at a secondary site. This was in the North Powell Slough. It had some pretty ideal site conditions for the time, and all the plants are doing pretty well right now. They're going into their dormancy period here as we're kind of rolling into winter. So we're excited to see how well they fare next spring, as we'll be reporting on that. But we're excited to continue this program and really instill kind of the pollinator habitat ideals into our plans. So that includes maybe even adding more pollinator seeds to our mixes that we are spreading. And just trying to get more pollinator awareness out there, not only for scientists, but just the general public. So this is a really great program that UDAF does, and we are super happy to receive this grant and partner with them. They are super awesome. And shout out to Mindy Wheeler. I know she's not here, but she is kind of the head of the program and stuff, and she has done such a great job coordinating it. So they did a really good job, and we were happy to be able to participate. So those are just some quick updates that I have, and I would love to take any questions that anyone else might have. So please let me know.
Any questions from the board? From the authority? No? Okay.
All
Thanks,
right,
Addie.
thanks, guys. I will pass this on to Jenna.
Morning, everybody. As for updates for me, the biggest thing that we've been working on is, not the biggest thing, but one of the big things that we've been working on is kind of overhauling the website. This is what it used to look like, which is noble, and there's a lot of good stuff, but we tried to make it a little bit more modern, a little bit more easily accessible, and we're still working on getting people or getting all the content that we want out there, adding pages and content. But so this is what it used to look like. And then this is the first page, the home page now. So as you can see, quite different. So we're going to keep rolling stuff out and adding more information as we go forward. So that's kind of the website. And then the second thing is we've been working with the BYU on-campus internships, and we have a group of interns right now that are working on some social media marketing for events that are coming up next year, as well as updating some of our content on the website. There on the left, you can see is the access points page. One of the interns is a geospatial engineer major, I think is what it is. Anyway, so he's building a story map for the access page, which is awesome. So he has a little preview there for what part of it will look like. And then there's on the right is some of the social media posts that they have thought about, particularly for the Winterfest in January. So they have a lot of ideas for the events and then just general posts for, like Wildlife Day or the holidays. So we're excited to see what they come up with, and that's going to go through mid-December. And so by that point, we'll have all of that finished and we'll be able to roll out that stuff as needed. So that's it for my updates. Are there any questions?
Nope, thank you so much. Sam?
Before sharing on mine, I want to give a shout out to Addie and Jenna. Although they've only started this year, they've done amazing work in the time they've been here. It's been a lot of fun to have coworkers. I loved working with Eric for 8 years, but having additional people in the office adds additional enthusiasm, new ideas, and they do great work. And I know Jenna didn't hit too long on the website, but she's put her heart and soul into it. So if you say anything bad, I might have to hurt you, letting you know. She's put a lot of effort in, but I appreciate everything they've been doing. So I want to talk a little bit more on the symposium. So this is something that was, as Mayor Lundberg mentioned, a group effort between our various staff, the presenters, great volunteers as well. And so I wanted to share a few more things. We had 95 people attend in person, which was great to see. And we also had 37 online attendees at our peak height. Obviously, those both kind of fluctuated through the day as people came and went. We took the opportunity at that as well to present a couple of awards. Jim Price with Mountain Land Association of Governments is retiring, and he's done a lot of great work to help move forward the idea of the trail plan at Utah Lake. He's helped seek funding, provide planning, and a variety of other assistance. And so we presented him with an award to thank him for those efforts. We also recognized Scott Root with the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources. He's been, I think, with the division over 30 years now. He's the outreach manager for the local central region. And he and his staff help us with our field trips, our Utah Lake Festival, and a variety of other events, including some of their own events that they pursue, online outreach, and a variety of other things, all to try and educate the public about wildlife and all that the lake has to offer. So we wanted to recognize his efforts as well. And then next, just thoughts on, we do plan on doing the symposium again in the future. Looking forward, we're looking into trying to change format. So every symposium or summit, our staff are attending. In the meantime, we're taking copious notes on what we like or don't like and different ideas. And we're open to suggestions on that as well. And we look forward to improving it. The online stream as well, the floor plan, all kinds of things are being considered to try and help that become a great annual event moving forward as well. One other thing that I've been working on is our small grants program. So this is an effort from the Utah Lake Authority to try and encourage and support additional events and offerings at the lake. Currently, There's one business that relies on the lake, Bonneville School of Sailing, that I'm aware of. I know there are some private marinas and there's probably other individuals that I may not be aware of. But city offerings at the lake are minimal as well. And I think that's understandable. Our cities are juggling a lot of different things and they're trying to provide their services to their citizens. So we have this small grants program that was set aside for this year with the intent being to improve, expand, or enhance recreation and leisure opportunities at Utah Lake public access areas. Our targeted launch for this first grant will be end of December into January. We're still finalizing a few details on it. Applications would be due, depending on when we launch it, February or March, to start efforts for this next summer season. Some examples could be paddleboard programs, wildlife or bird watching classes, other recreation amenities, or special events that cities and nonprofits or businesses may want to offer at the lake that can help people to come down and enjoy all that the lake has to offer. The small grants program supports a variety of our goals and objectives and strategies that are in our management plan that will be discussed at our next meeting in January. And then I just wanted to extend an invitation. We'll make sure we notify the board when we're ready to proceed, but obviously any board member that would like to be a part of the ranking committee, for those as they're received, we'd be happy to have your participation on that. The next agenda item on there's listed separately, but I'll be speaking on it as well, which is just our access enhancements. So to be clear on this, this is a funding effort that the ULA is seeking. This is separate from the partnership that we have with FFSL on the grant from the legislature. So this is funded via our budget this year. The target access points are listed there on the screen: Mill Race, Swede Lane, Mulberry Beach, and Milepost 13. These are often referred to as unimproved access points or sportsman access points. They're much more wild areas. They're a lot further away typically. These aren't your marinas or beaches. So the work included right now that's being considered is mostly access enhancement, trying to grade, fill, and compact the roads and parking areas. I don't know if anybody's driven a sedan down to some of these roads, but you sometimes worry about your suspension or your oil pan or whatever it may be, that it's going to make it through it. So we're hoping to be able to do that. If there's an option for parking expansion at a couple of these, particularly Mill Race, if anybody drives past on a cold morning here during duck hunting season, you'll see dozens of trucks and trailers just parked all along the dike road because there's not sufficient parking. So we're investigating if that's an option. We have some great partners on this effort. FFSL has been wonderful to work with. They're helping me on pursuing, making sure we get all the correct permits and follow the right process. Utah County has been providing guidance as well on these access roads, particularly because some of the access points are managed by them, and DWR has been providing input as well. As far as status on it, we had the RFP for the access road and parking open until yesterday. I just got an email this morning from the state Division of Purchasing. We had two or more, I believe, come in that we'll be reviewing. We'll be continuing the discussions on permitting with FFSL, and in the future, I think it's covering some of my text. Is there oh, perfect. It went away. Thank you. For future work, there's an idea being discussed with DWR to try and make the boat ramp at Mill Race concrete instead of gravel is what it is right now. The issue they keep running into is, unfortunately, when people are backing boats in and out, some of that gravel can get spun around and there are a lot of boulders underneath. And so it causes flat tires and such. So we're trying to work on that project. We'll also be looking at potentially repairing or replacing fencing at the various access points as needed. Unfortunately, sometimes vandalism does happen, and we want to make sure that the lake shoreline is being protected so there aren't motor vehicles going out on it.
Is there a way that we can do screen share so our online folks can see it?
Yes. 1 second.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're just sharing such good information.
I'll make sure we leave this slide up for just a second in case anybody wants a screenshot. Future work. I was just mentioning repairing and replacing fencing at some of the access points. They do get damaged with time. We want to make sure to protect the shoreline and the wetland habitat that's around it. And also signage. I'm working on trying to educate people on where these public access points are. There are, I believe, 28 access points now, but there's often private land around them. So we want to make sure that people are respecting that and also know where they can go to be able to enjoy the lake. That was everything. Unfortunately, we shared screen at the last second there on the online version. But Mayor Johnson or any of the board, I'm happy to take any questions on all of that.
Any questions?
Maybe just a quick comment.
Sure.
We had an opportunity to work with UCI or the prison to fabricate some gates and bollards. And I know there's a few going at some of these access points, but if while you're looking at these improvements, if we need maintenance access and have gates to be able to still access the shoreline, we do have a few extra. They're really substantial, but reach out if you have any ideas, Sam, on where we might be able to utilize those.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you
you.
so much, Sam. We appreciate it. We'll move right into our consent items. Unless anyone would like to discuss one of the items, I just need a motion.
Consent agenda.
Great. Thank you, Curtis. And you need a second?
I'll give a second, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. All in favor? Aye.
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 And maybe, I think because you're online, maybe we'll have you state your name. Are there any other board members online, or is it Mayor Johnson?
If it's just me, I guess I don't need to
Hey,
state.
Mayor, you don't need to. You're here. Okay.
I voted in favor, so.
Perfect. All right, we'll move on to our presentations. We have the Jordan River Commission membership presentation, and this will be by Soren Simonson.
Good morning. I'm Soren Simonson, Executive Director of the Jordan River Commission. It's good to be with you as always. I don't usually speak to this body, although I attend most of your governing board meetings, and it's really fantastic to see the work that you do. I'm here with an invitation. Many of you know that for many years, the Utah Lake Commission was participating as a member of our governing body as well. The Jordan River may not influence Utah Lake as much as Utah Lake influences the Jordan River, but our organization is really interested in what's happening in and around Utah Lake. It's the largest tributary to the Jordan River. And so the connections are really important. And as we've discussed, participation since the Utah Lake Commission was dissolved earlier this spring, there is interest in having the Utah Lake Authority, which is a state authorized agency, actually joining our commission, not as an appointment, which is how the relationship has been in the past with the Utah Lake Commission, but actually becoming an integral part of our organization through participation in our interlocal cooperation agreement. So that would change the dynamics in the relationship a little bit. Let me just take a few minutes and kind of identify some of the things that we're working on, and maybe you'll see and hear reasons why our work is important to what you're doing as an organization. Will she? Okay. So you'll just, Jenna, kind of scroll. Just a little bit of background about the Jordan River and the Jordan River Parkway, as we refer to them. The Parkway is a 51-mile corridor. The Jordan River leaves Utah Lake, flows through about 20% of the Jordan River is in Utah County, and it enters Salt Lake County and Bluffdale, crosses Salt Lake County, and then enters Davis County up between Salt Lake and North Salt Lake city boundaries, and then finally enters the primary river channel, enters Farmington Bay at Great Salt Lake, although there is a significant part of the river that's diverted in the Jordan River Surplus Canal that also enters the main body of the south arm of Great Salt Lake. Its watershed is about 3,800 square miles, which is quite large. That includes the entire Provo River watershed, clear up into the Uintas. And that watershed is part of the reason why we're very interested in what's happening with Utah Lake. There are 13 natural tributaries in addition to Utah Lake. There's also some man-made tributaries, the water reclamation facilities, the sewer treatment plants across the Salt Lake Valley that also discharge into the Jordan River, some with quite large outflows. There's a lot of wildlife. Most of that wildlife is also common to Utah Lake, migratory species, permanent species. And of course, there's a lot of recreation opportunities which overlap as well. We have now a continuous trail the entire length, almost the entire length of the Jordan River from Saratoga Springs to North Salt Lake. The main body of that trail was completed in 2017, right around this time, just before Thanksgiving, 6 years ago. And we continue to work on developing trail on both sides of the river wherever possible. Some of that's happening right now in Saratoga Springs and Lehigh. We have about a fourth of the length of the river that has trail on both sides. Some of that's soft trail, some of it's paved trail. And we continue to expand the connecting trails. We're particularly interested in the trail that is identified to eventually include much of the shoreline of Utah Lake, because that's an important connection for recreation, for people that commute, for lots of different opportunities. And we're a big supporter of this trail network as it continues to grow. We're obviously very connected in lots of different ways. The Jordan River is made up of a lot of different regulatory agencies. We have 16 municipalities that have some jurisdiction over the Jordan River, land use, zoning, parks and recreation facilities, stormwater, and all of those sorts of things, which many of you are familiar with, that are very similar to Utah Lake. We have 3 counties that also have local governing jurisdiction, including parks, trails, open space, transportation, mobility, public health and safety, watershed, flood control. We have a number of special districts. These are predominantly utility companies, water, wastewater, water treatment, transportation, mobility. And then there's a number of state and federal agencies that cover areas relating to water quality, water rights, air quality, transportation, mobility, fish and wildlife, fire and public safety, and emergency management. So let me just share a little bit of background about the history of the Jordan River Commission, how we came to be. We were organized differently than the Utah Lake Commission originally was, which happened through state legislative activity. We were organized by an interlocal agreement, although we were modeled very closely after the Utah Lake Commission. There were 8 original members of the Jordan River Commission, the 3 counties, Utah County, Salt Lake County, and Davis County, and a handful of municipalities. Saratoga Springs, I think, was one of those original 8. And if you'll continue scrolling, we were built basically on a vision for improving the Jordan River. That vision was known as the Blueprint Jordan River. This was completed largely under the expertise of Envision Utah, with particular support from Salt Lake County, which is the largest county through which the Jordan River passes. The Blueprint Jordan River identified a community vision that was guided by a really extensive public input that encompassed the lakes at either end of that vision. You can just scroll through these quickly, and identified a lot of both the opportunities and challenges that existed along the Jordan River corridor. These include community development opportunities, watershed enhancement, water quality, and there were a few guiding principles that came out of that original blueprint, things like conservation and rehabilitation of wildlife habitat, managing stormwater, which is one of the biggest challenges that we face from a water quality standpoint. I know that is a common issue for Utah Lake as well. Improving and preserving and enhancing buffers around the river. Many people don't realize that we have the same amount of shoreline, or we call it bank, of the Jordan River as Utah Lake. Although we're not as big a body of water, the shorelands of both bodies are very similar in size and scope. Integrate complementary development. Much of the development that happened around the Jordan River in the late 19th and through the 20th century was very industrial development. The river was a resource that fueled transportation and industries and agriculture and things like that. Some of those had some negative consequences on the river, and we're working in a very concerted way now to try and reverse some of those trends that happened last century. Removing physical barriers to boating and boating access. Boating on the Jordan River is very different than on Utah Lake. It's all non-motorized except for emergency operations. And it's really in many locations an exquisite place to paddle. We were happy to have Mayor Lundberg, right, from Linden City join us for one of our paddling excursions this summer, and we do those regularly down in Utah County. And then encouraging active transportation, this trail network, which has become just one of the real gems of the Wasatch Front. So we were organized by this interlocal cooperation agreement in 2010. As I mentioned, we currently have 16 member cities that are partners in the interlocal agreement. The last of those to join was Mill Creek shortly after they incorporated. We have 2 of the 3 counties that currently participate, Salt Lake and Davis County. We have 4 state agencies, Natural Resources, Environmental Quality, Transportation, and the Utah Transit Authority, and 6 special districts that include water and wastewater, sewer districts, and others. We have also 15 ex officio partners, basically half the number of the interlocal agencies. We reach out to businesses, industry, nonprofits, education, and other kinds of organizations that have an interest in the Jordan River. And we have been, over the last about year and a half or so, since the local watershed councils began their formation, also been working to align these ex officio opportunities with the Jordan River Watershed Council. These include nonprofit and education organizations, corporations and businesses, stakeholders and community members. We currently have 3 open seats. One of those seats was vacated when the Utah Lake Commission was dissolved, and we would love to have the Utah Lake Authority fill not a vacancy in our ex officio, as I mentioned, but actually fill a part of our interlocal organization. We're organized into a number of different operating entities. We have our governing board that functions probably much like yours does. We have representatives of interlocal agencies that serve on our board, and for cities and counties, those appointments are made by their legislative bodies, either a county council or commission or a city council. And then we have executive representatives that are appointed by their governing boards or directors. Ben Steierman and John Mackey, who serve on your board, are also on our governing board. And then we have representatives of our ex officio partners that are designated by their organization. So we have executive officers, for example, from Rocky Mountain Power, from Tracy Aviary, from Hogle Zoo, the Jordan River Foundation, the Northwestern Band of the Shoshone Nation. We have some of those representatives that tie into our Watershed Council are part of that as well. We are right now in a kind of a conditional certification process to become the certified watershed council for the Jordan River watershed. We were one of the first local watershed councils to be designated. We're still refining our bylaws to make sure that the Jordan River Commission aligns. I know this is a little bit different from the Utah Lake, which has a separate watershed council from the Utah Lake Authority. We elected for the Jordan River Commission to become the Jordan River Watershed Council because the work that we've been doing over the last almost 15 years is so closely aligned with the work of the Watershed Council that it didn't make sense for us to have 2 separate organizations. And that Watershed Council is an important reason why Utah Lake, the Utah Lake Authority, is such a key part of the work that we do, because Utah Lake is an integral part of our watershed. In addition to the council and our governing board, we also have a technical advisory committee, which is made up of representatives from city and counties that are doing the work on the ground. This is public land managers, public works and utilities, parks and recreation, and community development departments or divisions within local governments, people that are doing work on the ground with state and federal agencies and transportation partners, and then education, recreation organizations that also bring a lot of technical expertise. Organizations like National Audubon Society, for example, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Utah Reclamation Mitigation Conservation Commission, and others. We also, a couple of years ago, organized an event advisory committee like the Utah Lake Authority and formerly the Commission have events. We also have a number of events that we are involved with. These are events that we organize ourselves, which we call our signature commission events, like the Get to the River Festival, events that we sponsor and partner with that include the Golden Spoke, the City Nature Challenge, and the Range to River Relay, which has now been folded in as part of our Get to the River Festival. There's also a lot of events that are organized by others, which we provide support through staffing and resources. Things like Hogle Zoo, Tracy Aviary, a number of museums, the Hutchings Museum Institute here in Lehigh has been a really fantastic partner on lots of conservation and education-oriented activities and events. Cities and counties also do a lot of their own activities as well, 5K, 10K runs and things like that, which the Jordan River Parkway provides a really valuable resource for. And then we also provide resources for other community events, Earth Day, Latino Conservation Week, and a number of other events that are organized independent of us that we just help share information, provide resources and tools. The Jordan River Commission has been involved with a number of kind of documents that help support our mission as an organization. One of these that was completed in 2013 was our best practice guide for river-oriented development that includes ideas for better developing around the river. And I'll share a couple of examples of some of the big projects that are happening right now. Enhancing open space habitat and particularly looking at how neighborhoods that are being developed around the river, particularly in Lehigh and Saratoga Springs, which are some of the fastest growing communities in Utah. And a lot of that growth and development is happening right around the Jordan River. Providing compatible recreation opportunities, and then improving particularly stormwater practices. There's been a big shift in stormwater and how that relates to our bodies of water. And a lot of tools and resources are identified in this guide as well. We also provided a lot of support for the comprehensive management plan for the Jordan River that was completed in 2017 by the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. I won't go into details on this, but I know they're also working now on comprehensive management plan updates for Utah Lake and the Great Salt Lake, which we're also very supportive of those efforts because they have a large impact on the Jordan River as well. Just about a year and a half ago, we finished an update to the Blueprint Jordan River after we'd been working on implementing the Blueprint Jordan River for about a decade, back in 2018, early 2019. We said, let's go back and check in with the community. So we did that. And we had thousands and thousands of residents, many here in Utah County, that participated in our online surveys. We were doing a lot of this work through COVID, when a lot of people were using the trail and the parkway in kind of unprecedented numbers. We saw sections of the trail in Lehigh where we have trail counters, for example, that had a 400% increase in trail usage between 2019 and 2020. And some of that was related to the pandemic, but a lot of it was just new development that's happening around the Jordan River and people discovering this incredible resource in their own backyard. A couple of things that came out of this, and they weren't really new ideas because many of these ideas were already out there in the original blueprint, but open space and natural habitat were the two largest, natural open space and wildlife habitat were the two primary goals that people really wanted to see enhanced around the Jordan River. Okay, thanks. We can just scroll through these. These are just, vision and kind of the organization. This blueprint was reorganized just a little bit from the prior one. We had an extra section that was added in. So the 7 sections are habitat and natural systems, water in the river, and that includes both flow management as well as water quality. Again, important connections to Utah Lake. Comfort and inclusivity, looking at people that may have physical limitations, which can't always use every part of the Jordan River Parkway, and how do we address that to make it more universally accessible to everybody? Recreation, safety and well-being, development, transportation, communications, education, and art are all kind of focus areas. So just quickly, I want to highlight some of the projects that are happening. One of these that many of you are probably familiar with is the Wander development in Saratoga Springs. This is the connection just across Saratoga Road from Inlet Park. As the north shore of Utah Lake is being developed, so is this area around the Jordan River that's connected to the hot springs in Inlet Park. 35-acre park is being developed as part of the next phase of the Wander development, which is kind of described as Saratoga Springs Central Park. And it's really exciting to see this just in its final design stages. Many of you are familiar with the prison redevelopment in Draper, the Point. I know there's a whole coalition, including from Utah County, that are involved in this. I currently serve on the Community Advisory Board and have been very integrally involved in the Range to River connection. That's kind of the key feature of the Point that's in development now. And then one you may not be as familiar with is a lot of major development activity that's happening right around North Temple Corridor in the Jordan River, anchored by the State Fair Park, but also the 100 acres of Rocky Mountain Power and several other properties, both private and public, that are kind of coalescing in about a 200 to 250 acre area centered around North Temple and the Jordan River. This is a formerly mostly industrial area, and it's pretty exciting to see the transformation that's happened here. We're also working on open space preservation restoration. We were excited just Monday this week with the announcement of a $5 million grant. Most of that will go towards a project very similar to your Provo River Delta project, and a lot of the same stakeholders that are working on the Provo River Delta are also involved in the Big Bend project that will realign portions of the river, create a wildlife sanctuary that's about 15 to 20 acres, as well as a nature park with a fishing pond and trails and other areas in West Jordan. This is right at where West Jordan, Sandy, and Midvale all come together. This is an image of that project in process. I mentioned already park trailway connections to the Jordan River Parkway. You can keep scrolling through. We just had the ribbon cutting last month for the Parties Trail final about mile between 900 West and the Jordan River in South Salt Lake that's now opened up new regional trail connections. Water trail and boating access have been a major focus. A number of cities, Lehigh, Saratoga Springs, Salt Lake City, North Salt Lake, have been developing infrastructure through various grant programs and the Zoo Arts and Parks Bond in Salt Lake County. We've added in the last 3 years about 20 new access points and portages along the Jordan River, providing incredible new opportunities for people to experience the river in ways they really never have before. Wayfinding and signage is a major focus as well. You can keep scrolling through these pretty quickly. I mentioned the signature events that we do throughout the year, the City Nature Challenge, which is a get out, discover wildlife, plants and animals. Our Golden Spoke event, Mayor Kafusi kicked off that event. We're already setting the stage for our 2025 event, which we hope to tie into the opening of the Provo River Delta and Great Salt Lake State, Utah Lake State Park. Our Get to the River Festival. And then a lot of the work of our staff is volunteer coordination. There's, I think, a lot of overlap with your staff as well. We do a lot of work with weed management, litter cleanup in the river and on the trail and trailside areas, vegetation restoration and management, environmental education, recreation. Exciting to see the development of the new Tracy Aviary campus, which is expanding to 12 acres, a major nature center. Hopefully these are models for the nature center that has been discussed for Utah Lake as well. Mitigating the impacts of homelessness is a major focus right now. That doesn't affect every area of the Jordan River, but particularly in the North Jordan area, we see just tremendous impacts. A lot of the homeless individuals in Utah County are coming from, or in Salt Lake County are coming from Utah County. And so participation of Utah County communities is really essential to address the long-term both the root causes and ways to address homelessness. One of the last things I want to touch on is just the beneficial water flows. This is the Jordan River in Lehigh. Some of you are familiar with this. It's about 150 to 200 feet wide, probably 10 to 15 feet deep. When you cross the county line into Bluffdale, this is the Jordan River. Pretty amazing. And this is an area that's not really accessible either visually or physically. And so a lot of people don't realize what happens to the Jordan River, but almost 100% of the river is diverted into 7 canals. Most of those serving Utah or Salt Lake County. I think one of them serves Utah County as well. But there is really no river left. Addressing pollution and water quality continues to be a major focus as well. And these are often closely related issues. Storm systems. This is a picture right near Willow Park in Lehigh. Most people don't realize what happens when the water enters the storm drain. This short section of pipe shows that really clearly. The water drain on the street goes right into the closest body of water. Sometimes that's a mile or two away. In this instance, it's just a few feet. This is the tributary that comes from Dry Creek in Alpine through Lehigh that enters the Jordan River at Willow Park. And obviously the impacts of storm drains, you can see the evidence here in the Jordan River, particularly as you get to the bottom of the watershed and all of that litter is accumulated. So again, I want to just circle back on an invitation. We feel it's really important as the Jordan River Commission to have a strong connection with the Utah Lake Authority like we have for many years with the Utah Lake Commission. And I think you'll be receiving a letter and some background information from Sam after your meeting today. We would love to maybe come and rejoin your governing board meeting in January and explore whether or not this is a relationship that is worthwhile to the Utah Lake Authority. But we are very interested in this ongoing partnership and the close connection to Utah Lake. We learn a lot. Eric Ellis, who was appointed as the executive director about a year before I was, has been an incredible mentor and a friend. We're closely aligned in our work and focus. And obviously there are connections beyond the personal connections in the ecological systems, the hydrologic systems, the wildlife systems, and other things. And we think it makes a lot of sense to have you as part of our organization. So we hope you'll entertain that. We encourage reviewing our interlocal agreement and the background letter that will be provided to you. And we'd love to circle back in the near future and explore having you join the Jordan River Commission. Thank you for your time. Any questions you might have, I'm happy to respond to.
Thank you so much, Soren. And just as a reminder, what Soren mentioned, we can't make a decision on this today, but Sam will make sure that we have these slides. I know even on Zoom, the slide mechanism probably wasn't working. And so we want to make sure that the people online have it, but we'll want to take the time to sit and review this. So much good information, great projects you're working on, and we'll get that done. Are there any other questions from the board members?
Mayor Johnson online has his hand raised.
Yeah, Mayor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question for Soren and yeah, the slides didn't work, but I'll be happy to look at those if we can get a copy of those. But on the Jordan River Trail, you mentioned that a few times. I actually take that regularly. And I was just curious, it needs a lot of maintenance. And I know Mayor Miller and Mayor Walker, we've talked about this issue a lot because we all use that trail. It's not appropriate right now for biking. So I don't know, is it just the county that we would approach about maintenance on that? Is that something the Jordan River Commission would participate in? Because it definitely needs some repairs.
Yeah, so the jurisdiction over the trail is a real patchwork. In Utah County, the entire trail is under the jurisdiction of Utah County. Utah County is not currently participating in the Jordan River Commission, and we're inviting Utah Lake Authority. We're also inviting right now Utah County to participate actively in the Jordan River and rejoin. They were one of the original members of the Jordan River Commission. And when Lehigh City joined, they kind of felt, well, you've got the two cities in Utah County. You don't really need us. We do need Utah County participating. We have financial resources. Those resources tend to get directed mostly towards the participating agencies in the Jordan River Commission. And we would love to help support those efforts, Mayor Johnson. We know the conditions are poor right now in many stretches of the trail in Utah County. And we really would like to see how we can support Utah County's efforts to improve and restore. We'll help write grants. We've had great success with the Outdoor Recreation Grant Program through the Division of Outdoor Recreation. And we have our own ongoing funding sources. We now have almost $1.25 million in a direct legislative appropriation that's an ongoing appropriation that goes towards weed management, trail restoration and maintenance, education activities, restoration. And so there are opportunities to collaborate. And we look forward to doing that, especially if we can bring Utah County back in to the organization.
Soren, if you want to contact me later and just let me know what we can do to help facilitate that.
Yeah.
I know at least us three mayors would be we're looking for an opportunity to try to get that repaired.
That would be great. Thank you, Mayor Johnson.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and move on to our action items, and our Assistant Attorney General can correct me if I'm wrong, but there are a few of these items that we could potentially go into a closed session for if any of the board wishes to do for character and competency and things like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with 6.1. This is a resolution to appoint an interim executive director. Would anybody like to go into a closed session for that? Or would you guys like to discuss it and make a motion?
Chair, we're not reviewing specific names today.
We are reviewing a specific
Okay.
name today. I believe so. Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, so if you would like to go into a discussion in a closed session right now and review that, we can do that at this time unless you've all had a chance to look at that name and we can talk about it publicly and move forward with it. What would the board like to do?
I don't think it's necessary to go into closed session.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and discuss it. So the recommendation is that we put in Sam Brager as the interim, as Eric is no longer with us. So you can review the resolution. It talks about the different bylaws and the different authorities that we have to put in this interim position as we get ready to hire another person. I wanted to point out section 5, just in case anybody had any questions about salary. It talks about his salary will be increased up to the difference between the current executive director salary and the current salary of the program manager pay. If there aren't any questions about that, then I just need a motion.
Mayor
Yes.
Fulmer, if I may, just a clarification on that. So as you just said, it is up to the difference. The explanation that's given is executive pay, manager pay divided by 2, which essentially would be the midpoint of the difference between those two. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, and Sam. could you
Yes, that
clarify
was how it was written, was intended to be the average between the two.
Okay. A presumption there is that this board could also elect to change that in the future if deemed up to the current executive director level. Is that correct?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I think the reference of up to was that the recommendation, the resolution was to increase the pay that I receive for the program manager role up to what is the amount of the difference between the executive director's current pay and mine.
Right.
I think if I'm understanding you correctly, you're requesting if it's a flexible amount. I believe it was inferred to just be increasing it from what I'm currently paid as the program manager up to what is equivalent to halfway between the current executive director pay and my current pay.
Right. And
Does that clarify that?
per the formula, I'm totally fine with that. I guess I'm just simply asking the terminology, difference between would entail the entire difference between the two, not the midway between the two. So as long as we are just clarifying, the intent is to do executive director pay, current pay, and this will be divided by 2, whatever that number comes to. Then I absolutely support it.
Absolutely. This is really just a recommendation, and so we can make that clarification in the motion. Yeah. Any other questions? Oh,
That's good.
okay. Well, then we need a motion. And we're looking for that clarification, Cameron.
So I would move that we accept or adopt the resolution as presented in the board packet, inclusive of all points addressed. And then simple clarification is that we are using the formula outlined in sub-point 5, that the pay would be the current executive director pay plus the program manager pay divided by 2 to be the interim executive director pay for Sam in this new role.
Okay, we have a first by Cameron Dalton,
I'll second the motion.
second by Mayor Larson. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor? And should we do this by roll call? Yes, roll call. We'll start
Aye.
with Mayor Lundberg. Yep. Say your name and your vote. Sorry.
Carolyn Lundberg, aye.
John Mackey, aye.
Terry Peterson, aye.
Cameron Dalton, aye.
Marty Larson, aye.
Julie Fulmer, aye.
Isaac Paxman, yes.
Curtis Blair, aye.
Hillary Hungerford, yes.
Ben Steyerman, aye.
Online?
Mark Johnson, aye.
Is Brady online?
Brady Brammer, an enthusiastic guy.
Okay, perfect. All right, that brings us to our next item, 6.2. This is a review and approval of the executive director hiring packet. Does anybody have any questions? Were you able to review the package? You want to go over the schedule or some of the statutes? There was an opportunity inside of the packet to review scope. It talks about the statute, our current bylaws, the job description, and then it gives comparisons of job descriptions. So we can review that today if you want. If you want to send any information, then you can. But there's a timeline that we'll process with this. And if you want me to, I can also talk about the panels. So as part of the hiring process, what we'll do is we'll post the job. All of the applicants will come in. We'll have staff review it to meet the scope that the board sets. And then anyone on the board who wants to be a part of it will join panels of interviews for the top 5 applicants that come in, and we'll review those applicants. All of the scores for the applicant will be compared, and the top applicant will be brought before the board to make a decision. If there's like a tie between them, we'll go back and review those, and that's described within this packet. Any questions on that?
Julie, yes.
Yes, go ahead,
One
Terry.
comment. The interview panel, which is all of us, we're interviewing them between December 18th to December 22nd. I'm not sure I could pick a worse week to interview people than December 18th to December 22nd. And so my question is, why the rush? I wonder if we should do that after the holiday and they could be appointed at another time. I mean, Sam will be here, we'll be just fine. I just see that Orem definitely wants to be part of the interview panel. And I'm sure a lot of my colleagues here want to be part of that panel, but to try to do it right during Christmas is pretty crazy.
Yeah, for me, I mean, as I was looking at it, I'm available. So whatever you guys feel, this is about making sure people are here and present and doing it the right process. It was just to make sure that we get somebody in so that we can carry out the legislative process efficiently and really serve our community and the people on the board. So this is all open for discussion right now. Good
I think
point.
the week after is worse, is much worse.
This is Christmas.
Between Christmas and New Year's. So, I mean, in fact, I'd like to accelerate the opportunity to be getting through this process. I don't know what's holding us up till December 18th, but I'd like to see us accelerate this.
All right, any other comments? And maybe we can just review the dates. So what will happen, according to the schedule that's before us, is that November 18th, which is tomorrow, the job would open. So the job would be ready. And then it looks like there are maybe, is it 3 weeks?
It's currently described as 3 weeks.
3 weeks between that time. And then staff review. And it looks like staff review is asking for, is it a week of time before the 18th?
No, just our plan was to take 24 to, sorry, I'm looking at it really quick. Yeah, 24 to 48 hours at most to try and review it on the 11th and get it to the chair by the 12th of
Okay.
December.
And then we would do it the week before Christmas.
Madam
So-
Chair,
Yes,
the next Utah Lake Board meeting to appoint and approve the candidate is not until January 17th.
yes.
So is there really a need to rush the process prior to that to vet candidates?
Like I said, it is really up to the board, and we could even move the meeting and do it during this time. Was there any particular legal reason why it had to be officialized in January?
No, so originally when our staff prepared, and Brady, I want to let you know, we do see your hand. I would love to have you comment. Let me just answer the chair's question. Originally, when staff proposed this, we actually suggested, at this point compared to this proposed timeline, it was a faster timeline, a 2-week posting period. And we suggested pushing back this meeting It was originally scheduled for November 15th. We recommended pushing it back to December 7th, which allowed for a slightly faster version of this. When some board members responded that they wanted to take time to provide input on the job description and discuss it more. As staff, we elected to bring it up at this current meeting, moving it back to November. The 15th didn't work anymore, so we did the 17th. And then we just elected to structure it, taking advantage of the regular board schedule. So the board is welcome to schedule additional meetings as needed. So there can be a new or a sooner meeting. This is just following what's the existing meeting schedule of the board.
Okay, let's hear Brady's comment and then we'll come back to that.
So I guess my only concern on the tight timeline is I think this is a pretty unique position. And I do think that there kind of needs to be a little bit of time for applicants, particularly if we're open to looking out of state. And, there's only so many lakes in Utah. There's a lot of places across the country that have a lot of lake management experience that I hope we can get some applicants from outside of our small pond here in Utah. And so I am a little bit concerned as well with the brevity of it. And I have full confidence in Sam to hold down the fort as interim. And I'm okay taking a little extra time in order to get as many, to get a really broad applicant pool.
Brady, in that request, are you saying to go beyond the 3 weeks and start reviewing early January? Or are you saying 3 weeks is a sufficient timeline and not to go down to the 2 weeks?
I think that I would prefer to see what kind of interest we get and set the timeline, thereafter. I'm a little bit nervous about saying, if we only get 2 applicants because only people in Utah heard about it.
Okay, well, maybe we should talk about this as well. The job may be posted through Indeed, LinkedIn, social media, the Utah Division of Workforce Services and Government Jobs. Additionally, if the board wanted to expend funds of around $11,000 to $20,000, they could do a headhunter service. Recently, we did a national kind of exploration for job posting in my city. I've done it a few times, and 3 to 4 weeks is a great timeline. They really start tapering off after 2.5 weeks. But if you guys want to do 4 weeks, that's something to consider. I don't know other cities' experiences. Isaac, do you have something to add?
Well, I totally agree with, I was going to raise my hand and say the same basic thing that Representative Brammer did. I'm all for longer. To me, this is a 10, 20-year decision, possibly. And I too am totally confident in Sam to do whatever we need to, even with, I agree, the legislative session is important and all that. But my advocacy would be longer open periods, longer vetting, headhunter, the whole thing. I just think, let's think 10, 20 years and not be stressed about the next few weeks. I think this is a terrible time for a family to make a decision about this. I think we talked about the holidays already, but this is a major decision for anyone and it needs to be thought through. And so I'd be open to the application period not expiring until January 15th type of thing. And then let's just take our time and let's get through it. I feel like, yeah, we're just fine. There's no rush and there's no grand thing that a new executive director could accomplish in the legislative session that we couldn't do otherwise. That's my overall feeling is let's expand the open period. Let's let people really think about this because this is a unique job with, I just think let's take our time. That's my feeling.
Okay, so let's talk about a time. It seems like a lot of people are leaning towards additional time. Are there any other comments?
I would love to
additional time?
comment to the point of opening the application window of 3 weeks. I would concur that typically you get a pretty good response, but it might be that we say if we don't have a robust enough pool of qualified applicants at that point, we could extend the application opening. That's something that we do in Linden City frequently, and see how it goes. And I also agree with Representative Brammer and Isaac Paxman that there's no need to rush the appointment of the individual. I think January 17th, leaving that date as is and maybe working within that time frame to attract qualified candidates and then vet those candidates. I would be comfortable. with Sam being our interim in the meantime as well.
Okay, would everybody feel comfortable then with 3 weeks? If we don't get a robust pool, we extend the time period and then we kind of go back out for another search. But otherwise, kind of keeping the timeline of vetting so that we can have our staff do that before Christmas. And then we can even start the review. And if we want to extend the review as a board, we can come back in January and we can extend the review if certain people that want to be there can't make it.
So keeping the dates as is unless we feel there isn't enough.
I think,
Enough candidates for application.
Yeah,
Okay.
a question if I might.
go ahead.
So the topic of a headhunter came up, and I think that informs this because I don't think a headhunter for 3 weeks makes much sense. So
Correct.
maybe we should talk about that. Do we hold off on a headhunter then and just do 3 weeks and see what we get?
In my experience, we've hired a headhunter and that's the typical timeframe that they want. But we could have our staff review it and send that back to us and we could, if it makes sense for that timeline, we go ahead. And if everybody is like, yeah, we want a headhunter, then maybe we add that into our process that says, well, the headhunter is actually asking for 6 weeks. So we follow the coordination with the headhunter. Does that, everybody feel good about the job postings as is, or would you like to look for a headhunter?
I think we move forward and if we have, we're finding a hard time attracting the right candidates, we could always engage a headhunter thereafter.
Okay. Any
If
thoughts
I could-
online about that?
Yeah, if I could make a suggestion on that, I've not had good experience with headhunters. I've generally found them hitting about 50% on anybody you want to keep, if you will. I think there's better success if we're going to go out and actually target people instead of having a headhunter do it, that we do search on our own and look for people that have the experiences in current positions, and we could approach them if we're going to do that ourselves instead of having a headhunter do it.
Okay, so why don't we do this? We'll take the recommendation of implementing the headhunter during the 3-week extension period. If we don't find a robust pool in 3 weeks, we will approach this at another time and say, we'll go ahead and do the headhunter at that time. And does everybody feel comfortable with that? Okay, so logistically, does that mean we would have to approve the ability for staff to spend that money for a headhunter if the pool wasn't there? Up to a
I think-
certain amount?
I think we can review the budget. If there's not an account that it can already apply under, yes, we'd need to make a budget amendment, but I can review the budget documents. Eric provided me access to all those and determine if that's something that could be accounted for or need a board approval.
Okay, so in 3 weeks, around December 8th, if you need to do that, we'll have to hold a meeting in order to do that. Is that, or can we make that approval right now that says you can go ahead and create a line item for this in case?
Paula, do you
it's
know on that?
necessary? Okay.
If it's okay with the
Have to
chair,
do it,
I
yeah.
think it'd be good if Paula and I can look at it and
Yeah.
get back with the board as soon as possible so that if there is a need for the meeting, we have plenty of time to schedule.
Okay. Do you all feel comfortable with that? Okay.
Mayor, would we need to define what a sufficient candidate pool looks like? Or is that subject to staff discretion?
Okay, so as we go through the packet everybody was sent, this is where there are excerpts from our bylaws, from what we're looking for, what the purpose is of having them, the employment status, the role of the executive director. Additionally, the state statute outlines things that is expected of our executive director. If you wanted to expand beyond that and you wanted specific criteria, our staff has added a comparable job description of the Great Salt Lake Commissioner. If you want to review that, or we can kind of talk a little bit about any expansions of that, we can do that. What we could do is approve for the staff to put together the job description based on the things that we currently have. If you review the comparable job description of the Great Salt Lake Commissioner and you see anything that they want to add, you could talk about it now, or you could send it in for that to be posted tomorrow.
Cameron, are you referring to
If-
like a number of candidates?
Yeah, if I may
Probably.
clarify, I've
Oh,
read the
thank you,
description.
Curtis.
I'm very comfortable with the description.
Okay.
And of what a qualified candidate looks like. My question was more oriented on volume. If we have 5 applicants that are qualified, is that sufficient? Or are we looking to select from a pool of 20? Or,
Oh,
you
okay.
know, what would deem the trigger to do a headhunt?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question for the board. In the recent job pool I sent out, we got about 150 applicants plus in 3 weeks. And it was narrowed down to about 9 different applicants that went through our panel. And then we narrowed it down to a small pool. So whatever the board thinks you would like to see as far as numbers. For me personally, if I see we've got 5 applicants, but they meet everything, I don't necessarily need it to go out to 150. So number might not be the criteria as far as, you know, do they meet all the marks? And maybe that's what you're saying, but that's for you guys to decide. That would be my input.
Julie, I support what you're saying. It's not the number, it's the quality.
Okay.
And so I think that would be the interview panel, which will be made up of us. I think I rely on that opinion. If they think we have 5 qualified applicants, I'm good with that.
Okay.
But it's quality, not.
What we could do is we could make, to your point, we could have Sam's group put together all of the applicants on a spreadsheet, and the board could be reviewing the applicants as they come in, and you could rank them personally, and you could send that information in. That is something that we just did ourselves. And it was really helpful to say, we are seeing candidates rise to our different groupings. You know, we've got people in our 3rd tier, our 2nd tier, our 1st tier. And if you're seeing that not enough is coming into our 1st tier, that could be helpful. So maybe that's a process we could put together with staff, if that would answer your questions. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that would meet my needs or my desire to know. And really it's to give staff guidance. I mean, so that they know, okay, we need to pursue or don't need to pursue. And frankly, that was a question. Maybe we can clarify now. In our original flow, we say that staff would narrow down to the top 5 candidates for board review. When we say staff, are we referring specifically to Sam, Jenna, and Addie? Would anyone else? Is there a reason that board would not be involved in that initial selection as well?
Yeah, and I think
Or screening?
with this tiered process I was just talking about, the board could see all of the applicants that are coming in, and they could put their input in and tier them as well. So, but this is just so that you don't have to waste lots of hours looking through, and they can pre-rank them, and that way you can see what they're ranked at or how they fit into our scope. And then you can say, you know, that looks like a 3rd tier according to the scope, but maybe when you reviewed their applicant, you sent them up to tier 1 and said, I really want to see those people. So would that work?
Chair Fulmer, Brady Brammer's been waiting to say something.
Oh, Brady?
Yeah, I think it's generally a good idea to do the ranking system, but I want to make sure that the issue that I'm concerned about on doing that is complying with the Open and Public Meetings Act. If we're going to be, it is a policy decision. And so we just want to make sure that our Assistant Attorney General is on top of making sure that we're in compliance. It may be something where, you know, we let staff vet who meets the qualification and put it out there, and then we can get together and discuss. But I do worry about ranking and kind of jostling on a shared document that we're all seeing. If there's a quorum of us doing it simultaneously, it would violate the Open to Public Meetings Act, probably. So just that concern.
So the way that we did it, Brady, was that the list went out to everybody and they individually sent their stuff to the staff who ranked it according to those personal requests, which might be helpful in this scenario. That way everybody's just seeing the applicants. So.
Okay, just as long as we're not all communicating amongst each other and in that way.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great comment.
Ben? Fulmer, I really appreciate you all outlining the process. And then I think where we're headed on this really gives me a lot of comfort that we'll get some good applicants. And it's certainly important to us because these are crucial for the partnership we have on Utah Lake. I did want to just make a couple of comments on the job description itself. There's a few holdovers from the commission. It specifically references the commission and technical teams in that. So I don't know if there's an opportunity for us to send Sam edits to that job description.
We're happy to take it right now if you have them, if you'd
Is it
like.
appropriate just to send them directly to Sam?
What do you think is appropriate? Because you'll have to send them in and then Sam will have to send them back to the board and the board will have to all be okay with them, right?
Probably would be the best, yeah, to have it sent to us after the meeting via email and we can send it out to the board. The only option I could see there is that we need to approve this process. So if we're making edits to it after the fact, that requires an approval again, which would require a meeting again.
Yeah, that would be a question. Is there anything that we can add to the scope right now?
In general, I think just replacing commission with Lake Authority, I think that's a pretty obvious one. And there's
Yeah.
there's a couple holdovers in there. And then since we don't have a technical team yet, maybe rephrasing that to talk about the future technical team that might exist.
Oh, okay.
And then I don't know if there was going to be other information on here about like a benefits package, but I think that's important as we're trying to attract good candidates to talk about what those benefits might look like. Those were the main comments that I had, but there were also a few other suggestions, but I can live with everything else.
Okay. So just some technical errors, and I think we can give approval to staff to work through technical errors. And then a benefits package, we're not really actually just including that we could put together a benefits package, not really outlining what that looks like. Right? Because we'll be deciding that as we hire somebody and determine their skills and then determine what that looks like.
Is it different? Like, would it not be the same as Eric's benefit package as far as medical leave, those things?
Yeah, I mean, we could put all of those things like the general benefits
Yeah,
package.
sure.
Yeah,
Just to make
that's
sure
great.
folks know that that's part of the deal.
To clarify, Ben, you're just requesting it goes on the job posting. Yes, we do have plans to do so, yes.
Okay. Any other additions or questions or scope expansion? No? Anybody online? Hillary?
Yeah, if we're talking about the job description, are we kind of moving to that? One thing that I was a little bit left me wanting was there wasn't really a statement of like a vision of what type of person that we want. Like if you look at the Salt Lake Commission comparable job description that the staff sent out, they just have like a really nice paragraph that kind of is almost like inspirational. Like this is what we envision as somebody coming into this role. And I thought, especially if people weren't really familiar with what's going on at Utah Lake, or if someone is applying from out of state, for example, this wouldn't really do a lot to attract, I think, a lot of really interested, qualified people. So I was wondering if we might put together some statement like an aspirational statement that we want the executive director to do. I think that's lacking right now.
And would you guys want to pull something like that from the management plan, just talking about the overall goals of what we're trying to accomplish and the excitement of what we hope to achieve?
There'd be a big benefit to finding something we've already, because we spend a lot of time hammering out language on things like that. It'd be nice if there was something already there that we could use.
Yeah. Maybe Sam, what we'll have you guys do is pull language from our vision document and our management plan that you can send out and kind of show. Would you guys feel comfortable giving them authority to pick something like that? Okay. All right. Any other questions on the job description itself?
If I can clarify on that, I think since we need kind of finality now, if we authorize you to include a little bit that says, you know, the executive director of the Utah Lake Authority seeks to implement the following, and then quote something that fits, then I think we were all on the same page, that we know exactly what we're doing. The public knows what we're doing sufficiently. And it's not sort of vague and subject to further vetting by us. Just find that vision or high level goal language and plug it after a sentence like that at the beginning. Does that, I would suggest something like that to manage, because it seems like we're trying to balance not having to have another meeting where we
That's
need
right.
to do this. So
I think that's
okay.
perfect. And we'll just pull it from the management plan we just did. Okay. And then going back really quickly for the headhunter, if we don't find a robust pool at 3 weeks and we put the headhunter in, there was a range of about $11,000 to $20,000.
It's actually 11 to 30. So one quote that we got, we did some initial searching. One, they estimated $20,000 to $30,000. The other company estimated 11 to 15,000.
Okay, so 11 to 30K. Would the board feel comfortable kind of implementing that right now, that if in 3 weeks we do not have a robust pool, we allow spending of 11 to 30K thousand dollars for a headhunter service?
I think
To Mayor Johnson's point, is that maybe we revisit and see if that's really necessary. Maybe we do direct, like he mentioned.
Okay, so what we came up with then, and I'm just trying to get them all, is that you guys go meet together and then maybe we have another meeting.
I think there's that possibility, and we can't even set that meeting to be an electronic meeting. OPMA does allow for that. We would just need to have the chair at our anchor location, whether our offices or at Provo Airport is where that's typically designated. And we could do it online if the board needs more flexibility. but-
Okay, I can do that. We can make that work. Okay.
I just have one other quick question.
go ahead.
In the essential duties list, again, apologize if this is a point of clarification that I'm missing. It mentions overseeing the development and create strategies for the Utah Lake Master Plan, but then later it refers to talking about the purposes as defined in the Lakes Management Plan. Are those two different things or the same thing?
That's an accidental carryover from the commission. It
Okay.
was called the master plan into the commission. So
Okay.
we'll update that. Thank
That
you
will
for
just be a
notifying.
little-
us.
Yeah, and that would be really helpful. If anybody is noticing any of those technical changes that need to be noted, we'll give that authority for them to change those things. But if you see them, bring them up today so that they can be ready to post tomorrow.
And we'll make sure the board has the job posting as well. So you're welcome to
Yeah.
review it and share it as well.
That's right. Okay. Let's see. So we've gotten through our bylaws, our code, our comparable job description, current job description. Any other questions on this process?
Mayor,
The interview panel, are those dates the same or did we postpone them? The December 12th to the whatever days that was, December 18th to the 22nd.
Okay,
Dates
so
remain the same.
I kept in my mind, and correct me if you guys want these changed, our timeline is currently the same with extensions of if somebody can't be there, then we'll change those dates. So we're going to go through and ask everybody who can be there. And if they're not there, then we have the permission from the board to change those dates, like on a doodle poll to find out who can all be there that wants to be there. Would that work?
would it be appropriate to simply state prior to January 17th? Interview panel will be scheduled and
That's great. Yeah, thank you for the wording.
If I may request, if it
Does that work?
timeline wise, typically our staff sends out all agendas and documents for board review a week previous to meeting dates. So if there is a resolution for appointing a new executive director for the January 17th, if we're making that assumption, it would be good to have appropriate time for us to be able to share that with the board. Obviously, it's potentially all board members might be involved, but just that's our typical staff timeline. So I don't know if it would be good for the board to consider interviews, not before January 17th, but before that would be January 10th, which would give us time to, I mean, obviously there's going to be board discussion as well after the interviews too. So I just want to
I
make sure.
say in this situation, if we say prior to the 17th, then we can come together, figure out the schedule. We can know who needs to be in the room, what staff timeline needs, and then we can appropriately build that out. Would that be appropriate? Whatever.
That'd be a wonderful help.
Okay.
And that was my assumption, is that we would rely on you as the one coordinating with applicants and their schedules, as well as board members and our schedules. You would put together a proposal and just say, this is when we think we'll meet all of our needs. But it gives us a little more flexibility if it's not just in that one window that we've outlined here.
That'd be great.
Okay. Any other discussion? Yes, Hillary?
Yeah, sorry, I have one last question. So in the case that the interim executive director applies, does he recuse himself from ranking as the staff would?
Absolutely. And if that happens, that's good that we set up policy now, just in case that occurs. Any recommendations? What we could do is, instead of the staff member, we could have a couple nominations from the board that would fill in for that person at the time. Would that be good? Okay. Is there anybody that would like to be a part of that?
I'd volunteer to do that if Sam
Excellent.
decides to apply, which I hope he,
Okay.
hope he does.
Happy to do that too if needed.
Okay, what about the first two that came through were Ben and then Curtis and then Hillary? We could take 2 or 3. Any recommendations? Actually, since you all said it, I'm just gonna go ahead and put it. That way it's done. Okay, everybody feel comfortable with that? Excellent. Any further questions or discussion? I feel like we've got a process. Okay, then we need a motion. The motion is this. The timeline is the same with the word change prior to the 17th, with the addition that if we don't have a robust pool, we would extend that time period of having the job posted is the issue. They're going to go and review the headhunter position. If we need to, we could potentially hold another electronic meeting to determine that after this time. There's a few changes to the job description, which was the vision, where you would describe something that you caught from the management plan that we already put out and went through the public. We would add the benefits, and we're giving you the authority of the technicalities to fix any of those things. During that time, you'll run a process where we're going to be tiering things that follows OPMA that would allow for the board to review some of the candidates and make sure that we have the right pool to make sure that we have a robust pool. And then we will schedule according to like a doodle poll or something to make sure that anybody that wants to be on here can be here until that time. You'll be the interim and taking care of all of that. If you decide to apply, we'll have Ben Starman, Curtis Blair, and Hillary Hungerford as the people that would step in for you and review those candidates. I think I got everything. Did I miss anything? No? Okay, so whoever gives the motion can say as according to what I just read.
So moved.
Okay,
I second.
thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Curtis. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And was this by resolution? No. Any opposed? Okay, it looks like it was unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to 6.3. This is review and approval of the ULA policies and procedures, and Sam will read the portion that was just changed so that you can be thoroughly aware of it.
Thank you, Chair. So you all received the packet last week. There was one change we wanted to make sure we highlighted after that, which is if you're in the policies and procedures section, it's numbered as page 14. This is the section under procurement about public notice. The first version I have in front of me that you received online was quite simple. It just said, all noticing should be handled by the ULA clerk in conjunction with state purchasing. Adequate public notice shall be given for reasonable time and not less than 7 business days. And unfortunately, we wrote prior to the date set forth for the opening of bids. That seemed a little odd. I checked in with the State Division of Purchasing, who we do our guest posting through for RFPs. It's supposed to say 7 days during the time that the bid is open. So the version you're looking at is actually pulled directly from the code that Division of State Purchasing provided me with, which states, as you'll see in the first bullet point, that we provide at least 7 days for submissions of bids. It also provides additional language clarifying that there may be times that we'll need to reduce that 7-day period and how we have to abide by that. So just this public notice section was updated. That was the only major change from what you received last week. We wanted to make sure you were aware of that. Otherwise, as stands, the document's the same.
Okay, are there any questions on those changes? No? Any online? Okay, then we just need a motion to approve the policy changes.
So moved.
Thank you, Director
I'll
Mackey.
second.
Who was the second? Oh, thank you, Mayor. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? All right. That brings us to our final item, which is our public comments. And we have a few minutes left in the meeting, and anybody that would like to make a public comment, you have 2 minutes until the time the close of our meeting. Sorry, come up to this podium, state your name, where you're from, what your comment is, and then
Real quick,
Jenna will
Chair.
actually time. Yep. go
Just a point of clarification, Paul was just bringing to my attention. It sounds like, and I apologize, I wasn't listening to the exact phrasing of the motion. it's possible that the board just approved updates, but this is actually the approval of the first ever policies and procedures manual for the
Oh,
ULA.
yes.
So it is updated from what was pulled from the commission. That was our foundation, but there are additional policies that were added to clarify that the
Let's
commission didn't have.
clarify it publicly, just in case people didn't know.
Thank you.
I actually will call for another motion or more discussion. Okay. And,
And I re-second.
okay, so first by Cameron, second by Curtis. Any discussion? None. Okay, all in favor?
I was,
Mayor Lundberg is the second.
Okay, Mayor Lundberg is
Yeah.
the second.
Okay.
So first by Cameron, second by Mayor Lundberg. All in favor?
keep it clean.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we did it right. Thank you for the clarification. You're the best. All right, now we will move on to our public comment.
Thank you. I'm Terry Harmon with Conserve Utah Valley. And we just wanted to give a huge thank you for the Adopt the Shoreline program, especially Sam for coordinating with us several times. We completed 4 shoreline cleanups this year. Our most recent one was at North Shore, the FFSL property, and it definitely needed it. We filled a whole huge trailer with trash, and we have a huge public following with that. And it's been a really, really great program. We're especially excited to do more at the North Shore, and we hope that you all will be allies with us, protecting and preserving that area, seriously looking at some of the new proposals for freeways across that area, and even the location of the ULA Nature Center. We hope that you'll seriously consider preserving that restored acreage because it's amazing. As someone who lives in Saratoga Springs, I've spent 600 hours on that property. It's incredible, and I hope we keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Kay Nelson. I'm also with Conserve Utah Valley. We sent a letter out to each of you on November 1st regarding the resignation of Eric Ellis. And we just wanted to reaffirm our stand that as an organization, we firmly support the values described in the ULA management plan to help improve the ecosystem of Utah Lake, increase recreational opportunities surrounding the lake, and to ensure that the surrounding communities can enjoy Utah Lake for generations to come. We asked for a clear message from the ULA board about how your procedures and structure will be modified to create more clarity and transparency concerning your plans and priorities for the lake that we all love. And we urge you again to consider someone, as we've heard you talking about how you're going to do this today, who is qualified in management, fiscal responsibility, ethical government, and sound scientific conservation. We were happy to get a response back from Mayor Kaufusi, a quick response about keeping the process transparent, to pick a qualified ULA director, and we support the decision to appoint Sam as interim. He's been really great to work with. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Keith Holdaway, a longtime resident, 6th generation from a Mormon Battalion family member who homesteaded the area. And before there was this wonderful group and a Utah Lake Commission, we had the Utah Lake Landowners Association. And we took pride in taking care of the lake and the beauties there. Many of you don't know as to how much wildlife used to be there. I used to go down with my grandfather, special times, and to take care of the cows. And anybody who was there to hunt ducks couldn't keep their gun loaded fast enough. And with the influx of the Phragmites, you can't see a duck anywhere except now on our property that we've been grazing. I was always disappointed when the Utah Lake Commission paid millions of dollars to aerial spray chemicals to kill mosquitoes and to kill the Phragmites, and then spend millions of dollars rolling it every year. Whereas the simple solution was the farmer solution, graze it off with cows. It's really interesting that Phragmite plant is 20% protein, and it's the #1 plant of choice of beef cows. We didn't come up with that. It's been done up at Ogden Bay. And we just wanted to do it here. We know it'll save the county millions of dollars by using animals. Animals are used around just about every body of water in Utah, and it ought to be used around Utah Lake. We're going to keep doing it in our property. as long as we can. We've been jerked around in this whole process. We came up with a plan. I'm a trails guy. I take young people on the Provo Trail all the way to Lehigh on a 50-mile, 20-hour walk that teaches them to do hard things. And I love trails. I wanted to see this happen. But as property owners, we've been jerked around. My grandfather had to enlist a congressman by the name of Frank Moss to keep a road from going down through the wetlands. You all would oppose that. But my grandfather had to fight to get that put down. And thankfully, there was someone with guts in a Senator Moss that actually helped us to accomplish that. I'm really disappointed that with your former executive director, who's now stepped down, plans were made, we went along with it, and then all of a sudden, we had to teach Eric who Wakara actually was. And we started this, and things have changed. We actually had Eric doesn't invite us to the meetings. We're the ones that first started putting it together, trying to enlist Mayor Kafusi and other mayors around this, and it was going really great. And then Eric all of a sudden leaves us out of the picture. Somehow I think a landowner whose ground is impacted should be involved. I think a landowner ought to have a seat at the table with you all, if it only makes sense to me. But we were left out. The federal government comes in once again. Where's Frank Moss to help us out? There's other claims that have been made. We know we don't have clear title, but we claim use of the property. Homestead Act before statehood, paying taxes for 150 years. The man at the end of the bench here, Ben Steierman, is a class act.
Keith, I apologize, but you're past your 2 minutes. If you could wrap it up, please.
Okay, I will wrap it up. My neighbor actually had people come down to dig holes and move dirt in their property that they have had as long as I have. And that was with the plan of a city that is represented on this board here. And that's totally wrong. That made me mad. Ben had to address it, and he did it in a professional way to where maybe we can try to conserve this project moving forward. But I'm really ticked as to what's happened in the past. I want to see it done. I want to see it done right. Thank you. I'm sorry for the extra time.
Julie, may I make a comment in response to that? I just wanted to respond and let you all know that we are working with the several landowners and the Bureau of Reclamation to try to find a path forward that wouldn't involve litigation. So we've really worked hard to remain neutral in the whole process, but to try to identify, exactly where those pressures are and where the common goals might lie. So we have been meeting with the landowners and with the Bureau of Reclamation and with the, Eric from the authority and everybody involved to try to find that solution. So we're going to continue to do that. And we really do hope to see that this, the slough gets conserved and that we can find a way to get the trail through there, because this is a big gap for the Utah Lake Trail. So we're excited to keep working on that and thankful for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ben.
My name is Jake Holdaway. I am the guy that had the idea, and my dad believed in us, and I wanted to end a 130-year lawsuit. And I approached you guys in good faith. After 130 years of government fighting, and I was lied to. I was lied to repeatedly by this body, executive director. I came to him and I said, this is where the compromise is on this lawsuit. And when I found out about the loan in Orem and Vineyard, Eric was the first one to come to me and say that wasn't true. And he looked me in the eye and he lied to me. For over a year, I had to sit there and say that was true. that the mayor was involved in that loan in Vineyard. You know how hard that is? And in the last month, to find out that Eric was involved in the Whitfield loan twice, committing that 43, I want you to understand what that means. We have a lot of private landowners that I was approaching in good faith to donate their claim to solve a problem, while another well-connected lobbyist is trying to develop the property and lakeland, wetlands around that lake. And I said, why would I be going in good faith on one side saying donation when there's a $6.5 billion project being proposed where someone could make money? That means I'm a liar. That means I'm going to the landowners and I'm telling them to donate in good faith to you guys. And no one would tell me the truth. And I don't blame any of you guys on the board. I really don't. Because I've read the emails, I've gone through them. And half of you were not involved in any of it. I hold you no accountability to the half the board. The other half of the board did know. And that's not how government works. I've taught at the National League of Cities government procurement process. I've taught at the National Association of Counties. And there are a lot of private landowners that I want to apologize to because I was taken advantage of. And I told them to trust Eric. And that was not true. And I'm not attacking Eric as a person, I'm attacking the policies that were hidden from us. And there were a lot of good people. If you go through those emails, and there needs to be a reckoning. I was removed from Wakara Way when I spoke up, and I was not involved to any more meetings from that point because I spoke out. It was my idea, and I was not invited to any more meetings.
Jake, I'm sorry, the 2 minutes are up.
Does anybody have any questions to my face? Because I will answer them. Thank you.
We also have some online participants. So Ben, if you're okay with waiting, they've been waiting a bit. I think Richard Foggio specifically was asking. So Richard, if you're still on, can you unmute yourself and make a comment? Richard, are you still there? Okay, is there anyone else online that would like to take a turn? We're happy to swap back and forth between those in
Hi,
attendance.
Sam. Can you hear me?
I can
Sam?
now, yes. I'll set the
We have-
timer for you. Go right
We
ahead,
have
Richard.
6 more minutes too. Sam.
6 more minutes total. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry we're running out of time. I actually had 4 comments to make, so I apologize. I'll try to fit them in. First, on the Utah Lake management plan, I suspect Jacobs Engineering alerted everyone to the software update glitch, which prevented comments from being uploaded during the public comment period. So I'm not sure if some of my comments were received. I think the most important is the current plan does not mention the wetlands resolution that the board made in May. I highly recommend the management plan be revised to address and pursue goals and objectives pursuant to that resolution 2023-01. Second is the Utah statute requires the Lake Authority to submit a report to the Executive Appropriations Committee in 2 weeks, November 30th. My questions are, is that report on track? Has the board reviewed and approved that report? And will the board be posting it on the ULA website once it's submitted to the Executive Appropriations Committee? Third, policies and procedures. I recommend the board instruct the staff to improve the initial draft of the policies and procedures policy on a couple of items. First, there is no mention of the CFO, and I believe the CFO should be reviewing and approving all financial transactions.
Richard, your 2 minutes are up.
Okay, legal review is also, and approval is also not included in the document. And if I just may say, the discussion on the executive hiring, with all due respect, is too important. I encourage the board to reflect on their discussion and adjust the hiring process to reflect the importance of the next leader for the ULA. Why the
Thank you,
rush? It's
Richard.
too
Thank you for the
important.
comment. We need to move on to the next person waiting. We're going to do one in person for anybody else listening online. So this one, somebody making public comment in person. Let's go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ben Abbott. I'm a professor of aquatic ecology at BYU. I'm just here as in my personal capacity today. Where Utah Lake is at a time of great risk and opportunity. In addition to the many projects that were discussed already, there's a new proposal to dredge a big portion of the lake and put it in Goshen Bay, fill in a bunch of wetlands. We need the Utah Lake Authority to be functioning in a way that is efficient and transparent and ethical. And right now, I feel like there are some real concerns about that, and that there's a lot of suspicion in the community about how the ULA has been operating. I've heard this from other researchers. I've heard this from managers. I've heard this from representatives and senators who are saying, we want to help Utah Lake, but we're not sure what's going on with the Utah Lake Authority. And I understand that you can't go back in time. All of us, many of us would like to go back in time. We can't undo that harm, but what you could do is address it now, rather than just assuming people need to get over their feelings. I mean, to hear the Holdaways here, people that want to help the lake, that are leaders, that feel like they can't work with the ULA is something of concern. And so I invite the ULA to set aside time, not just at the end of the meeting, but to have a listening session, some kind of opportunity to hear those concerns, to respond to those concerns. It doesn't have to be the official opinion of the entire board. But until we acknowledge the hurt that has been done, I don't know how we're going to move forward together. And the lake really needs us to be unified as a community. So that's my invitation to you, that's made with a lot of gratitude and good faith. I believe that you are the right people to help us address those issues and move forward. But acknowledging the wrongdoing, and then making sure that we have revised who is on the board, what's the structure of the board, and what the process is for community collaborating with the community is important. Thank you.
All right. Okay, any questions from the board before we adjourn?
Do we adjourn at 11, no matter what? Is that the time?
Yes. And we have 1 minute left.
Can I take
Yeah,
49
go ahead.
seconds? And I'm new. I represent the Genola. I believe Springville was probably on here before. So I have a learning curve. And in discussing the executive director, my thoughts are, we talked about sending a headhunter out and making our pool big and maybe even going out of state. But my thought is, as we do that we do have somebody who has a somewhat vested interest, lives in the state, has been around, lives here, associates with it, knows what it is, and not necessarily go too far for out of state. So in my town, it really bothers me that somebody from long ways away comes in and they want to make all the changes. And I'm not saying putting somebody on who owns ground or something, but I do think that should be taken into consideration when we look at this person. That's all I have to say. Sorry, I might
Thank you,
have said it
Mayor.
wrong.
No, you're great. All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
Julie, I do have one
Oh,
comment
go ahead,
about
Jerry.
just hearing that, there's the Holdaways and then the professor. I do think that would be important for many of us. We don't understand the whole history and issues that we're hearing about. I think it would be appropriate that we set aside some time to have them come and explain to the board, what are the issues? What are your concerns? What are the issues? And we give them time. They deserve that as landowners. So I'd strongly support, let's schedule that on a future meeting. Let them explain so we all hear their side of what's going on.
Thanks, Terry.
Chair, could I make one clarification? from
Sure, Sam.
staff. Richard Fogel raised the point about the technical glitch that Jacobs had with public comment. So I just wanted to make a comment so that it's on public record. We were notified about it. Unfortunately, it happened over the weekend, which was the final days of submission. When that was discovered, Jacobs investigated it. They had a technical glitch that was corrected. But as a result, Jacobs and ULA extended the deadline to the next day. Richard's comments were received and we did notify him his comments were received. There were several other individuals who also emailed them and those were all included in the public comment as well. So we do feel confident still that everybody that wanted to have a chance did submit comments. So I want to make sure the board was aware of that.
Okay. All right. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
Thank you, Mayor Larson. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Lundberg. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thanks for coming.